Hello and welcome to the Product Biz Podcast. My name is Monica Little and I'm your host. And today on episode number 71, we have special guest Danya Douglas Hunt, and we're talking about tapping into the energetic frequency of money. So you may not even realize it, but there's this sneaky thing called fear that might actually be causing you to overcomplicate what you're doing in business. So often we put pressure on ourselves to do more, to be more, to work harder, without asking what the intention is behind the actions we are actually taking. If the intention behind your action is fear, whether it be fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of not having enough time, fear of not being worthy, fear of not being good enough, then the actions we take will be from a place of fight or flight mode, which puts our nervous system into a little bit of a frenzy and energetically shuts off from creativity, new ideas, intuition, and inspiration for doing the things that will otherwise actually move the needle. So if you feel like you are doing all the things in your business with almost nothing to show for it, if you're stressed out, burned out, don't know what else to do, well, today's guest, Danya, is going to flip your thoughts, beliefs, expectations upside down and get you thinking about new intentions you set for your business, new beliefs you lean into, new patterns, and new ways of being that leads to actual fulfillment, more ease with your business, and loops back to making more money. A little bit about Danya. She is a mindset performance coach who draws on her experience as a former Olympic athletic therapist and strength and conditioning coach to help visionaries, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and experts get out of their own way and bust through income and impact plateaus and become unfuckwithable. That is exactly what she does. And I'm so excited to bring her on the show so you can hear the incredible knowledge and just uplifting conversation that she has to share with you today. So let's bring her on and let's get going. All right. Well, welcome, Danya, to the Product Biz Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh,
we get so many conversations going. I'm like, we could have podcasts like every single day.
I know, we were just chatting and I'm like, I wish I hit record because we were having such a good conversation just about trusting and aligned action and fear, but everything that we're going to talk about today. So we'll pick up kind of where we left off and see where it goes. But before we dive in, since we're talking about money mindset and intuition, I would love for you just to introduce yourself for those who don't know you. Tell us a little bit about how you got to what you do now and how you help entrepreneurs.
Oh my gosh, how long do we have? Well, okay. So in short, I coach. I'm a speaker, podcaster, coach, but I really focus on entrepreneurs, visionaries, thought leaders, and I really help them get out of their own way and help them bust through like income and impact plateaus to become, wait, can I swear on your podcast?
Yeah, of course. You can say whatever you want. Rated PG-13.
Yeah, no, it's E. But I really help people like get back in their power and become unfuckwithable with. So that is combining things like neuroscience, high performance. I used to be an Olympic therapist and strength coach. And so working with Olympic athletes, that level of performance, pressure environment really transfers really well over to entrepreneurs playing at that level. I always like to say I'm kind of working with the Olympians of business and entrepreneurs, because when you're playing that big of a game, the nervous system regulation and the mindset is crucial, because that's usually what breaks or makes the entrepreneur from playing bigger or the athlete from making the team or a podium. So yeah, and I combine like manifestation, energy, frequency, vibration, all kind of the fun stuff to just help the entrepreneur like get out of their own way and get back in their power and make the level of wealth they know is possible and the impact they know is possible, but without the hustle, the stress, the hard work, etc. That's usually attached to it. And I will say too, like, let's just put this here. It's never actually about the money. Like it is at a certain point, and then you get to another point where you're like, it's not about the money. It's like, how big can I play? Where can I take this? How much impact can I make? And the money is like a byproduct of who you are naturally being. So yes, we're going to dive into money mindset, and it's crucial to have a good relationship with money and uncover beliefs that are potentially hindering us from moving forward. But when you're playing at the level of the entrepreneurs I work with, it's like, how big can I play? What am I capable of? Where can I go? So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We can talk about like more about my past or just more about where we're going. I just, you let me know.
I mean, I love that intro. And really what got me excited about having you here today is, number one, I mean, you're one of my coaches that I really look up to, and I have learned so much from you just in terms of like nervous system regulation and money mindset, and also just conversations that we've had. I mean, one that comes to mind is how we had that conversation of how you don't work from 9 to 5. And I'm like, wait, what? Because I work from 9 to 5.
What?
Yeah. I was like, that's possible? How does someone run their own very successful business and and not have like
Yes.
a set schedule on how they work. And you really have helped me to uncover like my own beliefs of, okay, I work from 9 to 5 because I feel like that's maybe me doing a good enough job, or I feel like I'm getting enough done, or I feel like that's my quote unquote like success of the day if I was productive for 8 hours or whatever it was. So I just love the perspective that you bring, because I think it's such a different perspective. But from myself and also the people listening and my clients, I know I had you in Product Biz Academy, and people just love what you had to say about money mindset, nervous system regulation, and how it all comes into play. So what I really want to start with is just asking you, when we talk about like money blocks, and I love what you said, it is about the money, but it's not about the money. But let's start with like the money side of it. What are some of the most common money blocks that you see that entrepreneurs have? Like, how does it really show up, or how do people really know if they have money blocks or if they're playing small?
Okay. Can we just do one sidebar? I can't help myself.
Yeah.
What you just brought up around the 9 to 5 thing, I wish people could really understand what that means and how valuable it is to challenge your thinking and your current paradigms. So many of us are going through life on autopilot and doing things because we think we should, we have to, or just doing things because we haven't actually sat and questioned, why am I doing what I'm doing? Do I even like what I'm doing? And I want to bring up 2 really quick stories. One was when I was in my Olympic career, I had spent tens of thousands of dollars getting a really freaking hard degree, passing board exams, and like I got my dream career out of the gate. Like, that's not something you just get. It's like, I worked my ass off for that and I was proud of that. And then it got to a point where that was no longer aligned for me. And most people have like a nudge or like an intuition hit or something that's like this partnership, this friendship, this business idea, this job, something is not aligned for me. And instead of sitting there and questioning stuff and actually challenging your thinking around it of what's possible, whether it's the beliefs or the perception of your identity, we just end up settling. And this is like my such passion, because you only know what's best for you and only you have those answers. So my job as a coach is to help you uncover what's best for you, not to tell you what to do. Like, that's just like, who am I to say how you should live your life, what you should do? And so it's funny because even though I shared how I operate, that sparked something within you that's like, well, hold on a second. Do I even want to operate this way? Like, why am I doing 9 to 5? Why? And that opening of awakening and questioning and just challenging your thinking of why you're doing what you're doing in any capacity is really the door that just peeks open of like challenging kind of everything. And it gives you the sense of being back in your power, choosing why you're doing what you're doing versus just thinking you have to, going with the flow. So with everyone here, you know, it can be unnerving because look, I had that nudge. I was like, what? I can't leave this. This is a salary. It's safe. It's like I worked so much, like spent so much time in this, investing so much money to get to where I'm at. And I'm there and I'm doing it for 5 years. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I could have sat in that career and I could have sat there for like 30 years. And I was really good at what I did. However, something was not aligned. And I would, had I not made the move to challenge you, just to get present and challenge, like, why do I do this routine and this health thing or this, whatever it is, without the questioning, most of us are just operating on autopilot and just going through the motions with the flow, leading to unfulfillment, to stress, to unhappiness, etc. When really it's all a matter of doing is just, let's pause and just question, get curious, have fun. You don't have to do anything, but just at least, please question some stuff. Even how you're doing business. Does it have to be done this way? Do I even love these offers? And my passion is to help people really live like my podcast called Play Bigger, not settling in every aspect. And yes, it's possible. Living life where you're like so excited to wake up to and you love what you do and everything you do energizes you versus like, here we go, heavier pressure of stress. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. So you brought up a good point, but I'm like, let's just hammer this in, because wherever you're at right now, you can pivot and change. You can do things differently and just start to question, why? Like, why am I even doing this way? And you'll recognize it comes down to your beliefs, your identity, and what you like, past programming, which we've all learned, versus choosing intentionally how to move forward and consciously creating it. And when you're in your conscious creation mode, damn, watch out, because you get in flow and it's like boom, 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 boom. Things that come to you, you can't even imagine were possible, but you're in conscious, intentional creation mode versus just like rabbit hole autopilot.
Yeah. And I love that too. I'm going to mention one thing on that because we were just chatting about this before we hit record. But for me, I mean, this whole 9 to 5 conversation just totally blew my mind because I worked in corporate offices, went to college. Yes. Everything has been very structured. Like, you're here from this time to this time. So when I left my corporate job, that's exactly what it was. Like, okay, I've always worked 9 to 5. So let me keep working 9 to 5. So when we had that conversation and you were saying, oh, I just kind of work when I feel inspired and I get done when I need to. And you even said, like, I don't even know what day of the week it is sometimes. And I'm like, I know
Zero.
when it's Saturday or Sunday. I know when it's Monday or Friday. Like, I know what's going on.
Yeah.
But it's been so interesting how you said to start to question things, because that's really what I started to do after that conversation. I'm like, okay, well, why do I have to work, quote unquote, have to work from 9 to 5? Well, because I feel productive. Okay, well, what is productive? What does that give me? Well, it makes me feel like I'm successful, like I'm actually making progress. And then you start to question, well, is that really success? Is that really progress? What actually leads to that? And it was so interesting. We were talking about this book that I'm reading. It's called Entering the Castle. And one thing that she actually says in this book is, if you trust, and this is where I want to also pick your brain, if you trust in some sort of higher power, right, have it be God, universe, source, whatever it may be, but as soon as your schedule is out of alignment, you start to go crazy, you go down a spiral, you're like, oh my gosh, but I was supposed to work from 9 to 5 and now this came in and now my schedule is totally off track. Like, that's how I used to feel. And this book questions, like, do you really trust if you're going down a spiral because one thing messed up your schedule that you're so accustomed to because you have so many like beliefs really built into the schedule? So hearing that for me has been a game changer, and even goes into this morning. It gets like so crazy deep how it goes in. This morning, I'm like, do I want to go for a walk? And my first instinct was no. And then I asked myself, well, why not? And then it was like, well, I have so much to do. I better get to work. And I'm like, okay, no, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm going to go for a walk, because a walk is going to make me feel excited and energized and just feel better. So no matter how much I have to do, if I'm saying yes to, I need to get started with work right away, I'm leaning into more of like the fear and the scarcity and not enough and time and got to get working. So I would love to just get your perspective, because I know
my brain's going so direction right now.
I know.
I know. Okay, so hold on to one of your points. Just because I can hear people right now freaking the F out. They're like, what do you mean? You just like don't have a schedule. Look, when you really develop a relationship with yourself and your intuition and your higher self, like we talked about first, our minds, our subconscious brain and our mind, our conscious mind our subconscious brain primarily runs everything we do, and it's designed to protect us. It's designed to respond and pick up data and put it through our own filters and protect us and keep us alive. That's its first directive. It is not designed, yes, we come up with ideas and whatever, but it's really not designed to like guide you. It's designed to like process the information in and get present, receive it, and then act on that. Most of us are using our conscious mind to like think and the how to and this, and that's not its job. So that kind of be like, what the F are you talking about? Your intuition, the connection to all knowing things, your subconscious, like consciousness itself is a massive topic, but your higher self, and we can talk about real quick here, quantum physics, is like all timelines exist at one moment in time. And like I'll close all these loops. Just give me half a sec. So how do we anchor even that thought in? What do you mean all timelines exist? Let's use a music example. Where I'm placing my attention, what I'm observing is going to be my experience. Now let's layer that on how I define something. So you use the word success and productivity, and you're starting to challenge, well, how do I define that? Is that something I've learned based on society, indoctrination, moralistic thinking? You bet your ass. What was around you? And so even just challenging the definitions of how I define something is going to be my experience of it. When you actually grasp that and you're like, where do I get these definitions from? We have learned most of that. So money, business, relationships, what's possible. And then when we don't do the definition that we've learned, there's shame and guilt and just turmoil, because your nervous system is regulated to one aspect. Your subconscious mind is regulated to one aspect. And here you're doing different shit. You're like, well, no wonder you're going to have mind drama and physiology going on. So if we just take our power back and recognize, one, how I define something is my experience of it. Can I define it differently? Is it possible to? Heck yes. Two, nothing has any meaning except the meaning you give it. That sentence itself, if anyone grasps that and actually applies it to anything in their life, that can change your life. Yeah. Nothing has meaning except the meaning you give it. Most of us give disempowering meanings because why? Our brain's looking to protect us and keep us safe. So if we have a comment or someone comes to our live event and says, well, I didn't really get much out of this, we go right back to, oh no, what's wrong with me? I'm not a good coach. I'm not worthy, when it could mean something totally different. Okay. Back to quantum physics though, is what I'm observing, where I'm placing my attention, okay, is what I'm going to be experiencing, that slice of reality that's going to go through my own filters, beliefs, programs, identity, definitions to create my experience of reality. It's not the reality, it's a slice of reality with my own filters blocking it. But when we say all timelines exist, think of it like this. When I'm tuning into a radio station and I'm dialing into 103.5, I am observing, placing my attention onto 103.5. And a song comes in. We match the frequency. You go from like static to like, oh, the music comes through in place. And you're on that frequency and vibration to tune into 103.5 and music comes and plays through. You, my friend, everyone here everything's energy. You're an energetic being. And based on your frequency and vibration is what you're going to attract in, like attracts like, law of attraction, law of vibration, etc. All that's playing a factor into what's creating your life right now. That doesn't mean to say, though, that the other radio stations aren't playing music, right? Think about this. There's watching a movie. If I'm watching a movie, does that mean every other movie theater across the world is not playing movies? No, I'm just not observing or tuning into that. Yeah. So when we think of our timelines and what our current reality of experience is, it's really based on where I'm observing, where I'm placing my attention, and the frequency that I'm attuned to that's causing this slice of reality. But there's other versions of reality going on all at one time. And it helps to me, at least, because I heard that. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is like way too weird, but it's not. If you think of quantum physics, it explains how all timelines exist. And you think of music. Like just because one song is playing doesn't mean all the other songs aren't playing. It's just where am I placing energy and attention? Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's that. The other thing I really want to anchor back into is what works for you. So your intuition, your higher self is always guiding you. That is where you get the nudges, the creative ideas, the downloads, but most of us can't listen or hear intuition because we're so caught up in our mind drama, our physiology, our past thinking beliefs, etc. You even just challenging and saying, well, hold on a second, 9 to 5, why am I even doing this is a start. And that's like the crack of like the, hold on, there's like a paradigm shift here potentially. So, and I hope I'm closing this loop we talked about before, but how I do things works for me. Mm-hmm. I had to learn what works for me. I had to challenge my thinking of what works for me. How do I define success? Where am I in my flow? So a lot of us, we create these like self-constraints around boxes. Oh, I'm a night owl. I'm a morning person. I'm a perfectionist. I'm this. No, we have tendencies or habits or thoughts or beliefs or definitions of that, but that's not who you are. You're an unlimited like energetic being. You're light. Like it's like there's no limitations except for limitations we put on ourselves. We want to start questioning now, do those limitations serve us or help us? And if they're useful for me, great. If they're not, let's reprogram them and regulate your nervous system. So I like to use this example when it comes to kind of knowing yourself. Some people love structure. Some people love time blocks. Some people don't. They love freedom. So if I gave you 3 examples of, okay, Monica, I'm going to give you a canvas. You can paint whatever you want and have all the colors. Some people are like, yes, that's me. I want full autonomy, creative flow, etc. Like that's how I operate best. Then some people would prefer or operate best if I say, hey, Monica, here's a canvas. Paint a picture of nature and you've got 3 colors. So there's some structure, but you still have a lot of autonomy. And there's some people who work better by paint by numbers. This color, this exact spot, bing, bong, boom. If we don't take the time to 1, question our own paradigms, our own definitions of things, but 2, get to know ourselves and how we work best, we're just going with the flow. And we're just like a beguine, like not in our own conscious, intentional, creational power. And so for some people who are like, what do you mean? You don't even know what date is? And like what works for me is not going to work for you. But I have really, it's about getting to know myself and being able to listen and tune into my intuition, clearing the mind drama, regulating my nervous system, challenging my thinking, challenging my definitions of things, and really understanding what works best for me and how am I in alignment. Yes. And when I'm in alignment, things flow so fast and I move faster than most people. But that doesn't mean if you give me a schedule, F that. No. Yeah. Like I'm the one who's like the middle. I need a couple colors and I need, a direction, but then let me do my magic and flow with that and create within that. If you give me paint by numbers, you give me everything open, that's not how I work best. So as you're listening to this, start to recognize, well, how do I work best? Am I just going through the motions, doing things I have always done? Maybe you change from corporate to, entrepreneur or vice versa, or you're in the entrepreneur space and you just have your team, you're just going through the motions, doing what you always done. Or can we start to question, does this structure, this paradigm, this identity, this belief useful for me? And if it's not, how do I begin to have awareness of how do I operate best? Where am I in flow? What's my intuition telling me? And if you're like, I can't listen to my intuition, great. Then start with the mind drama and the beliefs and regulate your nervous system so you can actually hear and receive from your higher self, your intuition, how to best move forward for yourself.
Yes. Okay. And that's
I think we closed all the loops.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what hopefully. I want to dive into. I need to grab my charger really quick, but then in 2 seconds, once I come back, what I want to dive into exactly what you just said, like how does someone actually tune into their intuition? I love how you said mind drama, nervous system. So give me 2 seconds and then let's dive in there. Okay.
1, 2, just joking.
Okay, so let's dive into that while I plug this charger in.
And I also just want to make sure, like, we'll go back to the money stuff, but believe me, this is a foundation for everything. So whatever subject matter you're talking about, money, beliefs, business beliefs, personal, like whatever it is, what we're talking about is applying to the first money question. We'll answer that. But if you just kind of keep your awareness open and be like, well, we got some money blocks. I'm here for money mindset. This is the foundation of it all. Like, you apply this to any subject matter you're talking about. So, okay, remind me of the question again. How do we?
So intuition, like, how do you actually tune into intuition? Because I know for me, at least, when I first heard about intuition, I started to learn about the ego and how that keeps you kind of safe. And intuition is more of your higher self. But it can be challenging because sometimes we feel like we have this gut instinct, but how do you delineate if it's actually your ego keeping you safe or it's your intuition? So I'd love to hear your point and your difference and your guidance there.
This kind of goes back to our her and I spent a day in Sedona. It was so fun. Like, that whole, like, there and back could have been like so many podcasts. It was so fun. Okay. So this is all about really knowing yourself. This also is a bit of understanding of recognizing your brain's role is to really keep you safe first and foremost. Its prime directive is first survive and then thrive. It is constantly scanning your environment looking for threats. So when it comes to intuition, again, know yourself. But if we look back on past evidence, we all have had moments where intuition has spoken to us, whether it's a thought that comes through. And when it's a thought, or if it's a thought, it's quiet, it's calm, it's grounded. It's not like, what the heck? It's like, it's not any of that shit. It's not looking at worst case scenario. It's like, it is literally almost think about, I don't know why this comes to mind, but like, you're with your best friend and you're just talking to them and they're just like there and their presence is very calm and they're just talking to you and they're like, yeah, okay, cool. Have you thought about this? So the feeling is very calm and grounded. For me, my intuition is a very inner knowing. And that's so frustrating because as soon as that inner knowing locks in, no matter how bad I want something or whatever, it's like, okay, but not, I go, okay, because that's my ego, human self being like, oh, but I really wanted that path or this person to work out, or like, oh, I thought this idea. And it's like, no. So it's an inner knowing. It's a gut instinct. It usually is the thing that speaks first before you hear the mind drama and the nervous system kick in. You don't feel your heart rate racing and like nervousness or stress. So even with that, how we define energy is going to be our experience of it. If I feel energy in my body and I label it as stress or anxiety, guess what's going to happen? My mind's going to follow, and now it's like, stress, whatever. Brian Adams had a very interview that I always refer back to, is he would wait to feel the butterflies in his body before he stepped on stage. So his definition of that same nervous energy that most people take as anxiety or stress or worry or fear and goes bad, oh no, what if negative, he takes that as like, I'm not stepping on stage until my body's ready to perform. Like, this is a sign I'm ready to go. Versus most people see that as a sign as stop, retreat. So I want to be careful of not defining things too much for us, because how you define it's going to be your experience of that. But intuition is calm, quiet, grounded, inner knowing. And it usually speaks first. So if I ask a question, you're going to have an answer come up, but then you're going to have the critical factor mind and like come in and be like, what about this? And like doubting, questioning stuff. And you might start tapping into your physiology or your heart's racing or your like nervousness. But the reason most of us can't access this is we're so caught up in our day to day. We don't even want to take 5 minutes to just sit and ground. Whether you put your feet in ground in nature, like you're an electromagnetic being. Thoughts carry frequency. You literally, this is science. Just start looking up your energy. Your thoughts create frequency. Your words create frequency. They can change your state by just saying certain things. Grounding in nature helps literally ground your body and like recalibrates it just by putting your bare feet in grass. So when we're looking at what's preventing me from taking 5 minutes to just tune into my intuition, it's usually going to be a fear, a thought. What if I fail? Or what if I do this? I don't have time. I've got my kids and my business and this is it. Yes. Well, no shit. You can't hear your intuition because you're not even giving yourself a chance to tune in and get present and listen. So for a lot of us, we haven't strengthened that muscle over time. When I first started out, it was like, I asked myself questions like, should I eat this or this? Do I go this or this way? I started with small things. I didn't have a lot of pressure or stress attached to them. And now when I'm in what most people would be freaking the F out on, like, let's talk about the massive pivots I made in my life. It's because I've practiced strengthening that muscle of tuning in and listening to, how does my intuition talk to me? Is it a thought or is it a feeling? For me, it's both. Sometimes I actually get a flash of like a picture. Like I talked to you, Monica, when I'm on a path, I'll say, do I go left or right? And sometimes the visualization of like the end of one path comes up. I'm like, boom, go that way. And so you have to take the time. No, you don't have to, because even have to is pressure language. If you want to listen to your intuition, you get to take the time to get present and just start asking yourself questions. Give yourself things to respond to. Get present and quiet, and you'll start to learn how your intuition talks to you. Mm-hmm. But in terms of characteristics, it's definitely calm, grounded, inner knowing. Usually the first answer that comes up for you, without the chatter and the physiology freaking the F out. And then just practice it with smaller things, like even food. Before you start practicing, like, do I leave my 8-year relationship that I'm engaged to, or my career, or do I pivot and like put my stuff in storage and just become nomadic? So it's because I've practiced and strengthened that muscle with like 5-pound weights before I started lifting 1,000-pound weights that enabled me to now move through life fearlessly, because I have that trust and relationship with myself, and I know how to tune in and listen to my intuition and higher self. And that's what's guiding me versus my ego mind, my fear brain, all that kind of stuff, the nervous system stuff, which we can talk about the whole fun airport thing. I haven't had that experience in a long time of like my brain going into fight or flight and just shutting down and not even accessing resources. It was so funny.
I would love for you to share it just so people can see like a real life example. Because as you're talking this through, the things that I'm picking up that are relevant to me, and I'm sure a lot of people listening too, is I'm starting to ask myself, am I working on this, or am I doing this from like a state of pressure? Because what I'm starting to realize, if it's pressure, if it's, oh my God, I don't have enough time, or I have to get this done, or I have so much on my list of things to do. As soon as I get into that pressure, then I feel like I'm moving away from my intuition. And like you just said, like I don't have the time or space for it to kind of come in clearly, because I'm so pressure, rush, fear. So for me, a big thing is like rushing. And that's why I'm starting to really challenge myself. I mean, from the conversations we've had, and even some of this just as of today, like, do I want to go on this walk? Why or why not? Okay. Is it because of pressure? Cool. Then I'm going to do the opposite and actually go because my fear brain is going to tell me, no, you have to go to work. You have to sit at your desk. You have to get a lot of stuff done, which I do have a lot of stuff done, but I'm really starting to try and practice just trusting and being like, yes, there's things that have to get done, but if I can create space, then I think I'll be able to hear more from my intuition of the right path to take, the right direction to take. Opportunities will come to me. And as much as I can remove that pressure, which is a total work in progress for me, I'm trying to open up that path. But I would love for you to share that example of in the airport, of like how it comes up too, or anything else that's come up from that.
Yes. Okay, well, can you if I don't touch on it, let's talk about the neuroscience aspect and then link it with like manifestation of what you just shared, because what you just shared is fucking perfect. Okay, so my example is I was in the airport and I thought I got dropped off at the wrong end of the airport. And like Monica and I drove to this airport a couple days ago, and it's freaking massive. And so
we got lost for like 30 minutes.
Yeah. So, and I didn't have time to get lost at this point. So I was like, instantly my brain goes into panic mode. And then now, which we'll get into neuroscience, what happens to your brain when you get into stress, anger, pressure, etc. I'm losing access to my resources. Like my brain is thinking there's a line in front of me. And even though it's like me being late for my flight, it's like my brain seeing a line and responding as if there's a threat in front of me. So I found the information desk, and luckily I was in the right spot, but I had to go opposite end. And it was like not obvious where the departures were, because I got dropped off and I thought I was in arrivals. I was like, oh my goodness, this is a massive airport. Then I go to check in, and my brain's like, I haven't taken myself time to like calm and ground myself so I can feel my heart racing, and I'm feeling all the mind drama come in. And it's like, okay, hold on, just like chill for a sec. I go check in, and I had forgotten that I put my passport in my pocket. So when I'm calm and grounded, like you have access to all your resources, like creativity, solutions, possibilities, intuition, etc. And I had been proactive, and like, okay, instead of in my purse, let's dig it out and get it ready. So when I check in, it's just super simple. Well, because I got triggered and I thought I was in the wrong space, I was like, my brain, and you wouldn't see me in the airport and be like, she's freaking out. But inside I was like, my brain saw a trigger, felt the trigger, and just shuts down. So I go to check in and I empty out my whole entire bags. And I'm like, where the fuck? Now I'm going more mind drama of like, what the heck? And I was like, no, just stop for a sec. Like I had this with me. I know it's here. Like just ground in this. And then I start patting my jeans. I got these new jeans, and the pockets are huge, and it's in my front pocket. And I'm
my God.
I laughed at myself. So I'm like, here I am in classic fight or flight mode. This is a response. And what does my brain do in fight or flight mode? It's looking to survive and run away from a line that's coming. And so I lost all access to the ability to be like, instead of emptying out my shit all in the airport, I could have been like, hold on a second. I would have remembered that I put it in my pocket. So,
and I love that too, if I can just say one thing.
Yeah.
I love what you said earlier about how like your experiences, past experiences can create like beliefs and patterns. So what happened here is we had an experience 7 days prior where we were picking up a friend from the airport. We went to the wrong place. We drove around for 30 minutes. We couldn't find it. We're like, what the F is going on? Where is Diana?
Like, we're smart. We read the signs. Yes. What the heck? We're like two very smart people. How are we not? We read the signs. We followed the instructions. Yeah. What is happening? Yeah.
But that's so interesting because then what happened is that pattern, because that happened in the past, now you had like that experience or that belief, maybe not a pattern, but that experience or belief. And then when you were running late and then you didn't know if you were in the right spot, then it kind of triggered it again and led to this domino effect.
Totally.
So I just wanted to hone in on that because then we can think through what past experiences do we have that if we have a little trigger from it, we start to do this domino effect of thinking, you know, like you said, fight or flight, holy shit, what's going on type of situation. Okay, but then you were leading into like the neuroscience manifestation side of things.
And then let's explain the neuroscience, and then let's link it to manifestation, and then let's link it to how people can start uncovering their own triggers and stuff. Like I don't know how much time we have. We can talk for like 10,000 hours. Okay, so the neuroscience of it. So when we go into how many of us experience like pressure or stress or fear or even shame or guilt, any of those emotions we label as like disempowering, right? So remember, our brain's job is to protect us and keep us safe. First and foremost, your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind, it runs like 99% of everything you do. And to anchor that in, what does that even mean, Danya? I'm talking to you right now, and I'm forming sound, and my tongue is moving somehow to like talk to you and formulate thoughts and express that. How am I doing that? How am I moving my hands without thinking? How's my heart beating? Your subconscious mind. So once we do things with enough repetition and intention or emotion, your brain goes, okay, cool. You must need this to survive. I'm going to take that off your conscious plate and put it on an automatic program. All of us here have so many automatic programs running because your brain's doing its job of like, okay, well, you've said this enough times to yourself, or you've had this same emotion or same experience. You must need that to survive. Your brain is not moralistic. It doesn't know what's good or bad. It just goes, recognizes a pattern, takes it off your plate, runs it. So many of us right now have patterns that are running that aren't serving us. Thoughts, beliefs, feelings, whatever. So when we experience a thought or a physiological sensation of like stress or anger or whatever, your brain's, I want you to just everyone imagine from now on, keep it super simple. Your brain is sensing there's a threat. And to that threat, your subconscious mind is saying there's a lion in front of me. So what it's doing is it's shutting down the resources that you don't need in this moment, because you don't need to be worrying about digestion. You don't need to be worrying about your intuition or creativity if there's a lion in front of me. What you need to worry about is not becoming lunch. So brain shuts off certain capacities, shuts off our parasympathetic system, which is all about rest, digestion, healing, etc., creativity, intuition, seeing possibilities, shuts that down and makes your legs strong. Why? So you can run. So if we could start to recognize when we're in that state of pressure, stress, anger, fear, what's going on at a nervous system level and a subconscious level is your brain is preparing to run away from a lion. Now, you're like, what the heck's going on with that? It is a highly sophisticated system, but it is built for the jungle. It serves animals very well. We have the same subconscious brain and nervous system as animals. So you think when a lion is picking up data, a zebra is picking up data, there's a lion nearby. The mind takes in information and causes an emotion or an action or sensation within the lion's body to move, run away so it doesn't become lunch. Where it's kind of faulty or dysfunctional for humans is we have that conscious factor. We have that advanced mind. We as humans have the ability to store information. Animals don't. So for an animal, when the system gets triggered, fight or flight, okay, the lions outrun the zebra, you go, oh my gosh, zebra. Oh my gosh, zebra. That lion was huge. Did you see that size of that lion? The zebra literally goes, what lion? Because it doesn't store the information in. Well, humans, we store everything. And we've had several, like hundreds and thousands of experience over our lives of when we're little, as we're growing up, where our brain is starting to attach meanings and interpretations of things and storing information because, if we've had a disturbing experience in our past, whether we consciously know it or not, and that disturbing experience can be someone giving you a bad look when you're growing up in second grade talking from the class. And now your brain goes, whoa, there's a threat. I might get killed. It's going to store that. And that's actually going to make the data bigger in your mind because it's trying to say, if there's anything like this, similar to this in any capacity, we're going to make sure we run away from it. We're going to trigger the system, fight or flight, to survive and get away from this. It's kind of like the example I use with, let's say, a war vet. Let's say he retired and he spent 20 years serving, and he's now with his grandkids in the living room, and a firecracker goes off. And all of a sudden, Grandpa's underneath the couch and he's freaking shaking the fuck out. Like, he's like, as if something's gone off. And you're like, Grandpa, it's just a firecracker. What's going on? Yes, but a firecracker and a grenade, similarities have boom, boom. Like, it doesn't have to be the exact sound, but if there's similarities at all subconsciously to a past disturbing event or an experience for you that you might not even label as disturbing, but it caused some emotional turmoil, your brain's going to go, whoop, let's blow this data up and make sure that anything similar to this in any capacity. It could even be you don't like someone's energy or you don't like someone's presence because they might have the same tonality as your third grade teacher who embarrassed you in front of the class. Like, you can't consciously always know this, but your brain's job is looking out for threats all the time, scanning the environment. So with the grandpa example, you realize that he was in the war and his best friend got blown up by a grenade. And that trigger is still looping in the subconscious mind. And so now linking it back to kind of what we talked about, whenever we're going into fight or flight, and we know this by physiology freaking out or a mind freaking out, I want you to start recognizing my brain is looking at something in front of me, whether it's a mean comment, whether it's me increasing my prices, whether it's me speaking on stage, hitting record, whatever that is. It doesn't know that that's not going to kill you. So if I have a thought or past experience or belief about something in leading up to this, and I have that mind drama or physiology, it's seeing a lion. And so what is it doing? Getting your legs strong to run or your jaw stronger to bite. You don't see a dog running at you and trying to kick you. If a dog's angry, like, it's coming to bite you. And that's the same system that we all have as humans. Is it's built for the jungle, but it's not designed for a sophisticated world. So then we learn, how do we hack this? How do we get the data that's been enlarged and the brain's going, okay, if anything's like this, let's make sure we don't go into, like, that almost killed us, even though consciously it didn't, but subconsciously it doesn't know that. It doesn't know the difference between what's real or not real. Mm-hmm. That's why we can have a thought about a past experience and trigger the exact same physiology experience in our body. Why? Well, your subconscious mind doesn't know what's real and not real. That's why we can watch a movie and, like, be so heartbroken or get scared when someone sends you a TikTok of a spider jumping at you. You know it's not going to jump at you, but your subconscious mind doesn't know what's real or not real. So it's responding to this stuff. And so where this comes in for a lot of people is we think we have to just deal with the triggers or the PTSD or the emotional turmoil or the mind drama. It's like, no. You just have to get your subconscious mind on board and have it process the things that have happened in the past that have caused triggers or activations, whatever you want to call that word, essentially the mind drama or the physiology that's not serving you, right? Because when we can clear that stuff, you get back in your power. But now we can see, okay, now it's seeing a lion. Even though we know it's not a lion, it's like me just raising my prices. But when we have but what if no one buys? Those thoughts, the brain doesn't know is moralistic or good or bad. It's just like, whoa, I'm sensing a threat. There's a lion. And you're now shutting down your parasympathetic, which is healing, resting, digesting. So a lot of us who have health issues, it's because so many of us are in low level fight or flight all the time. When one system kicks on, fight or flight, survive, run, the other one goes down. Because an example I use is when rabbit is running away from wolf, fight or flight's kicked in, it's not meant to see the carrots around it that it can eat. Its job is run and don't become lunch. Now, when the rabbit gets away from wolf, that system shuts right off. But for humans, we keep perpetuating it by a thought, by experience, by this, because we haven't healed our past. So now it's just keep this low level fight or flight is on in the background, kind of like your computer with 1,000 tabs on at one time. We got to shut the tabs down and harvest the energy that's going to trying to help you survive and just wasting energy to bring it back to the present moment and help you move forward. Mm-hmm. And we allow the fight or flight to shut down, parasympathetic increases, and you get access to your intuition, your creativity, seeing possibilities, logic, critical thinking. That opens up. So I always love this question because everyone, especially my high achieving males, but my females too, like the type A people, Danny, I need that pressure. I need the anger. Okay, well, imagine if you're operating well now, which everyone is. However, what would it look like if you could operate even like better than where you're operating at right now without the low level fight or flight that we're not always consciously aware of it. That's the thing. It's not like we're walking around being like, there's a lion. It's the low level threats are just taking energy and shutting down one system to increase the other system. So from a neuroscience perspective, if we can now start to understand, if I've got a thought that's on repeat and I can't clear it, or there's emotional turmoil, there's something I can do there to help my brain get on board saying this is not happening anymore.
Yeah.
Now, we link it back to real quick. Do you want to talk about like your state and link it to vibration, frequency and stuff? Or do you want to say something first? We can go like 10,
let me say one thing and then we'll see where it goes, because what's coming up for me too, like you said, it may not be you actually knowing like, oh my God, there's a lion, but for me, it's just, yeah. And for me, it's mostly, and just to link it back to what I said earlier, that feeling of rushing, like that feeling of pressure, like I have so much to do, to the point that, you know, when I lay down at night, my brain is still wired. And then I'm like, well, okay, here I am in that pressure point where I'm still thinking about, I'm still in that rushing mode. I'm still in that fight or flight where it's hard to fall asleep certain days. So it's interesting how it kind of comes up, because in some situations I would say, no, I'm fine. But when I actually stop and pause and be like, okay, how was my work day? Well, I felt a lot of pressure on myself. I had trouble then following sleep that night. Okay, there's something going on there.
Yeah.
But what
and
I want to ask,
sorry, just before you go off and ask you a question, can we start to look at now that that's a protective mechanism of the brain? Like it's actually doing its job. It's just, it's designed for a jungle versus our sophisticated world. So now we get to get curious when we get triggered, or there's something that comes up for us, or there's a repeating like, oh, but I've done the affirmations and read the course. I get that, but there's still a looping thought, or like there's still emotional turmoil caused, or I'm still operating in pressure and fear and scarcity, whatever. Let's look at it like, hey, what is the line my brain's trying to protect me from? There's some sort of fear or belief or something there that we can now dive into and say, hold on a second. Now with subconscious programming, it can be guided, and it's not that you have to relive anything. Like that's what I love about this work, especially people who work with veterans and people who have gone through horribly tragic stuff, that they have every right to be like, F the world and be in the victim mindset. But you no longer have to actually relive an experience to clear it. So when we start to get a trigger, whether it's a firecracker or it's a thought, or it's just like I'm lying in bed and I can't get present, you can start to ask questions of yourself and start to get curious and challenge it. Like, well, what's preventing me from getting quiet? So I remember on one podcast interview, she was asking some questions, intuition, like, Daniel, well, how do people, take time to get quiet? And I was like, well, what's preventing you from taking 5 minutes to get quiet? And that question sparked a lot. And we went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, because we got to uncover where the fear is. Where is the fear, and shine a light on the fear, the belief, the thought that's essentially driving the intention of all of my actions moving forward. Right. Mm-hmm. So real quick, if we look at our results, the results are just the external manifestation of previous amalgamation of thoughts, beliefs, actions, whatever. Like this, whatever, leopard top is a result or an effect of a previous thought. Maybe I saw it, maybe I looked at the weather, maybe I was like, I don't have a certain vibe, whatever. It's the effect or result of me having the amalgamation of things happening before. Now, what comes before results is our action, strategies, and behaviors. Valuable, important. We need that. You can't just like sit and kumbaya everything. Law of action states that we need to actually take action towards to get our results. But most people focus on those ends too, and they don't actually understand what's actually driving those things. What's the intention behind this action? And usually we can start picking up fears around like, what's the intention of me being in pressure, fear, or stress all the time? And it's usually going to come from some sort of protection of like fear of failure or not being good enough or something. Yep. Then until we uncover whatever is in the cause, like law of cause and effect, ends up in the result. So no matter what result you get, how much money you make, the next level you meet, you still are feeling scarcity, feel pressure, overwhelmed. It's because we haven't actually cleared up the driver, the intention behind that result. And so we say, well, what's behind, like, okay, so we have results on one side. Before that is action, behavior, strategy. Very important, very valuable. But let me ask you this. Most people know what to do. How to be healthy, how to grow a business. Like the strategy you can Google, it's there. Every strategy works. But if you're not in alignment with who you are and how you operate best, and you're not understanding what's the intention behind this action, if it's operating in fear, scarcity, worry, whatever, avoidance, have fun. That's going to lead to burnout, unfulfillment, stress, and more. No matter what result you get, you're going to go this hamster wheel. Now we can uncover, hold on, okay, well, what comes before the action strategy and the behaviors? And that's going to be your state. Mm-hmm. And so your state is your emotions. Your state is how you feel. And with that, you can link it to law of vibration, law of frequency. You're an energetic being. So like attracts like. Like we become friends because we're like, oh, we got the same values. We like you. We're on the same vibe. Same thing with our business. So if I'm in a state of fear, scarcity, worry, stress, that's going to be in my actions. How many of us invest in coaching containers because like, oh, I just need this. And there's so much pressure or stress, or try and do sales calls from that perspective. Subconsciously, people pick up on energy. Like we've all walked into a room where someone's like, this guy's fucking creepy, or like this person's desperate energy, or like, whoa, something's off in this room. We can sense and feel it. Whether we can label it or not, you're an energetic being. You can pick that up. So the state if I'm in a really empowered, bold state, I usually take different actions and I get different results. If I'm in a really disempowered, fear, scarcity, whatever state, I typically take different actions and get different results. But then what comes before our state? Thoughts. Thoughts and state mirror each other really closely. So the beliefs, the thoughts I'm having on repeat, thoughts are frequency. Thoughts affect your frequency, your vibration, what you attract in, what you don't attract in. Your words can change your state. Going from like, I have to do this to I get to, one word can change your state. Again, it creates a ripple effect to your results. But then what becomes before your thoughts? And that's your subconscious mind, your identity, your beliefs, your values, consciousness, what you're connected to, your higher self, intuition, that's guiding everything. But most of us focus on, just going to say it, the easy shit. Work harder, take the action. Look, if working hard and taking action is that's your secret sauce, I don't know what to say there, because that's the easy stuff to fall back onto. It's where we feel productive. It's where we feel this. What happens if we can now start to challenge, what's the intention behind this action? And what's actually driving these results? And what, I keep getting this result, and I've had my highest, we just had a conversation the other day with another client. It's like they hit their highest month ever. And they're like, yes. And then they switch right back into, whoa, shoot, how do I repeat this? And what if I can't do this again? It's because they haven't cleared up what's driving them to get that result in the first place. And until you do, you're either going to get maybe blips of success or blips of increase, but then you always come back to your homeostasis, your thermostat that's programmed. Yes. Do we need to go over the thermostat example, or do you think that's, what do you think?
No, I think that's perfect. I think that's perfect because as you were talking, I mean, I think this wraps it up into money mindset, which is what we kind of started with, right? Because you said
45 minutes later, guys, we're back to money.
We're back to question number 1. We've answered it. Oh my gosh, but
we actually have. If you're like connected, like you're actually like paying attention, we have answered that question. Yes. Because you can start challenging your money beliefs. But
exactly. Yeah, because what essentially you said is like your identity and beliefs lead to your thoughts, and your thoughts lead to like your intention behind your actions and your state. And that leads to the actual actions that you take, and then that leads to your results. So it truly 100%. Is coming all the way back to the identity and belief and really questioning, like, why am I doing this? Is there pressure? Yeah. What is this pressure from? Do I want to do this? Do I like to do this? Is this needed? But I think one thing that I kind of want to wrap up with is the question of like your podcast name, Play Bigger. Because what I don't want people to think is like, oh, well, I feel comfortable, just doing what I always do. So I'm just going to do what I always do and expect results. Because part of it is obviously, if some people may think it may be their intuition saying, well, no, don't reach out to that person. No, now's not the time. No, they're going to say no to you. When in reality, part of this is also doing the scary, uncomfortable action, right?
Oh,
so just
time.
Give me your view on that.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the funny thing. We all actually know what to do, but it's do you have the courage to actually do what your inner knowing is to do, right? Ooh. So whether it's setting a boundary, whether it's doing a partnership, pivoting your business, whether it's reaching out to that person, whether it's slowing down because you're like, I know I'm on the verge of burnout, but just one more thing, one more client, just one more thing off my list. We actually know what we should do and need to do, get to do, I should say, because that's pressure language. And the question just comes back to us is like, what's preventing me from listening to that inner nudge or inner knowing? Mm-hmm. What's preventing me from doing what I know I need to do, whether that's a certain health habit or building my business? And I also just want to make sure we put this in here too, is until you regulate your nervous system and get your subconscious mind on board to your conscious desires, you always come back to your current results. You might have moments of change, but overall, the progress is not that great or that big of a difference. You always kind of come back to your own inner knowing. So until you reprogram your mind or start challenging, like, what is this belief? What's this identity? And also regulate your nervous system to get on board your conscious desires, we might say we want to have $1 million a month business. But when you say your desire, is there any resistance? Is there any fear, any freaking out? And if there is, we can consciously know it's a good thing. We want these things. But if you have any sort of blip of like, woo, or like freaking out or emotional, like turmoil or mind drama, and a lot of it, we have to clear what that is first before we can move forward and trust and listen to our intuition. Mm-hmm. So yes. Okay. Let's talk about some real life things. Leaving an almost 8-year relationship, engagement, calling it off. It made no logical sense. Like oftentimes your intuition doesn't make any logical sense. Zero. I can say the last 3 years of my life. I've like put myself in storage, I'm very nomadic. I've left careers, that was before 3 years. I've left a partnership where nothing actually makes logical sense. But when I'm clear and I'm tuned in, it's that calm inner knowing and grounding moving forward. Like I know this is the most aligned thing for me to do moving forward. And it's whatever's best for me is best for the person within my life too. We're both much happier, et cetera. And it worked out well. But had I listened to the fear, or had I listened to what was logical, or had I been not applying my own coaching tools to myself, I probably would have stayed and we both would have been miserable and happy. So your intuition, what's in alignment for you still feels very calm and grounding. It's like this inner knowing. And you might have the mind drum and you can do tools to help clear that, like subconscious programming, nervous system regulation, all that fun stuff. However, it's almost like you know that there's a pull there. So whether it's ask out for that person or reach out for a collaboration or say something, there's an inner knowing that's guiding you there. And then what happens is the fear, the emotional turmoil, the mind drama comes in after. So can you listen to the nudge and hear the whisper and that groundedness, and then recognize what's coming in after is your brain trying to protect you and keep you safe. Mm-hmm. That's a lie and that's a threat, because until you regulate and get your conscious mind and subconscious mind on board, change to the brain is a threat. Good change, bad change. Those are in quotations. If it's something different you've done before, reached a certain level of wealth, got a certain bag, asked a certain person out, done something different, your brain's going to see it as a threat. It doesn't know moralistic thinking, and it doesn't know what's good or bad. It just goes, whoa, 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 you've never done this before. This is a threat. This is going to kill me. And you can consciously say, it's not going to kill me, but your subconscious mind doesn't know that. So if you recognize any change to the brain is a threat, you can start to say, okay, how can I start normalizing that change now? And you can absolutely do that. How can we tap into our senses and make it, again, hack the mind? Your brain doesn't know what's real or not real. So if I want to make $50K a month and I start feeling shit going on my body, my mind, yes, I can clear that. And also I can now regulate my mind to that. How can I experience that now? Can I spend 5 minutes in the morning experiencing like, okay, Danya, you got $50K a month. What does that feel like? Like really embody the senses, get your senses into it. Act as if, operate from your goals, not to your goals. And as you do that, as you take action towards your goals, one, that tells your brain that's not a threat, because who the heck moves towards a lion if it's going to try and eat me? Mm-hmm. But two, you on your own, without having anyone else, can just start tapping into creating that experience as if it's real. Spend some time visualizing, tapping into your body, get your senses on board. And over time, your brain's not going to say that's not a threat because you've done it enough times. Your mind's not understanding what's real, not real. You start taking action towards it. And that's the way you can start hack as you're growing and evolving as an entrepreneur. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I love it.
I was like, I'm going on tangents here. Like,
oh my gosh.
Okay,
so good.
So many different ways.
So good. Okay, well, that was just such an awesome conversation. You are such a wealth of knowledge.
Peace
and
friend.
Like we said, we went up to Sedona and I was just picking your brain and getting so much good insight from you. I'm like, these are the best conversations ever. So I think just to wrap up, you talked a lot about addressing the subconscious and making sure your conscious and subconscious are on the same page. So I think people are obviously going to be interested in this. So share what you do, where people can find you, your podcast, because that's essentially like what you help people with and what you specialize in, all of these things we've talked about. So where can people find you to keep in touch?
Yeah. And like, here's why I'm so passionate about this is because usually most often what stops us is not the action. It's not the how. It's like our own mind, our own past beliefs, our own identity. Like switching from an Olympic identity to an entrepreneur identity was a transition. I have helped through that. So whatever your situation right now, however you see it, good or bad, whatever you want to go, recognize it's absolutely possible. You just might need to hack your mind and body to get on board and help assist you to get there versus working against you. So if you learn anything of just having your mind protect you, it's nothing, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just, there's some sort of disconnect, things you have to heal from the past and, or just regulate to get on board to where you want to go. But it's absolutely possible. So I love this because I'm like, man, there's so many change makers and visionaries who aren't doing things, aren't stepping forward, aren't thinking bigger because of their own stuff. And you're like, clear the stuff. And then what happens for you? So where you can find me is on Instagram, my name, Danya Douglas Hunt, it's just one word. My podcast is Play Bigger Podcasts, and we have lots of fun conversations on all this stuff too. And in my Instagram, there's a link in my bio for lots of free resources and different ways to connect with me if you want to do deeper work on this stuff.
Awesome. I'll make sure to link everything in the show notes. And just thank you. Thank you so much, Danya. Such a great conversation. So grateful for you. And thank you for stopping in and chatting.
Thanks for having me.
All
Bye.
Right.